Construction, and Swabby's on the River. All these places are hiring. Reach out directly to find out more. Let's get back to work, Sacramento.
Diversity means differences between people in race, gender, sexual orientation, age and physical abilities, even religious and political beliefs. Diversity is what makes us unique. Odyssey Serve Sacramento truly believes that understanding diversity can inspire and innovate, and would like to share your stories of diversity, equality, and inclusion by lending you our microphones and giving.
But since S&G's offering buy two, get one free on select carpet, hardwood, laminate, and waterproof core, which is just like 1/3 off, your choir boy conscience got the better of you.
That's it.
I'll forgive you.
You will?
When you take me to one of those big S&G showrooms, or we could have their mobile showroom come here. I don't have chocolate up my nose or anything, do I?
No. Yes.
This month, buy 2 square feet of select S&G carpet, hardwood, laminate, and water, and get the third one free. Plus, they'll beat any written estimate by 10%, and the price they quote is always the price you pay. S&G, more than carpet. Go to sgcarpet.com for the showroom nearest you, or to have their mobile showroom come to you. Now offering tile and carpet cleaning.
Do you know of a heating and air company that's willing to share their extensive knowledge for free? I do. This is Susan Wright for Fox Family Heating and Air, and here's a great example of how much you can trust the Fox family. Check out their YouTube channel. You'll find about 300 videos by Greg Fox that help troubleshoot, give tips, and answer common questions. Sharing this kind of knowledge is why they have over 30,000 subscribers. They're the only HVAC company I see being so open, and this is why I trust them. Visit foxfamilyhvac.com. That's foxfamilyhvac.com.
From Cameron Park, for cleaning around the house, pick up the Craftsman 9-gallon wet dry vac. Includes a 7-foot hose, 2 extension wands, car nozzle, utility nozzle, and wet nozzle. Now just $49.99 with your Ace Rewards card. For your delicate electronic gear like flat screens and computers, save on select E-Cloth cleaning cloths. Now buy one, get one free. Visit Gold Country Ace Hardware on Cameron Park Drive. Some restrictions apply. See store for details.
Summer's here, and the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk is now open daily. Save up to $20 per person when you buy online and visit on weekdays. Check out beachboardwalk.com and plan your summer fun today.
Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And the Olympians across the pond. Is all fair in Love and War in Tokyo, Japan. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars. Also, all around the world, just say Google or Alexa Play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear, welcome to the show. I will introduce myself sometimes, and sometimes I won't. It's all fair in Love and War, but I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV. You can sit there staring at a still picture. You can also follow Big C Sports on Spotify, Podchaser, Spreaker, lots of applications. On television, you can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV. Just wanted to make sure I got that other twice, because I got about 3 hours of sleep, and I don't know if I said it the first time or not. If you ever felt like I've been there before. How did I get here? It's all fair, Love and War. I love pausing, but I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. I love paying homage to our military. My father was a veteran of the United States Air Force. He's a pilot, a chief mechanic, had to fly the airplanes before they allowed the other pilots to get on. If you know anyone going through a crisis, pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255, or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. You can definitely get some help for our veterans and their loved ones. Also very happy to be affiliated with Valley, home with weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the first place San Francisco Giants, and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run king Barry Bonds. When you reach out to him, just tell him Big C sent you. Our goal is simple. I want World Series tickets. Maybe I'll get them through Disney's Arrive Matthews. If not, I'll get them through Big C Sports Media Pass, all fair and Love and War. Our goal is simple: to recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this country to help people put properties on the market and put people back to work, just like McDonald's does it. Nike does it. Even Zoom Bank is doing it. Car dealerships are doing it. Sports teams are doing it all over the country. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, the #1 lender in the country on the wholesale side. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. Most of our loans are underwritten by Rocket Mortgage, proud sponsors of Big C Sports. When you need a loan, don't just be sure, be Rocket Sure. It's all fair and love and war. I also want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight, Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like in Genesis 1:3, God said, let there be light. Just like God said, let there be light, open your electronic devices to say play Big C Sports. We will pop up all over the world. That means from sea to shining sea, all over this planet, and I really do appreciate the way things have grown with Big C Sports. I also want to say going back to college can be very exciting. This show is sponsored by Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol. Yes, college kids, 0% alcohol, but 100% on your game. So you can go to the game with 0% alcohol, all fair and level war. Make sure you're 18. That's all I'm saying, or even 21. Make sure you're 21. Show your ID. I don't know what states have 18 or 21 laws. I thought it was actually 21 everywhere, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm not a really big drinker, but it's all fair and level war. It also goes great with the Big C Burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. Man, we have a lot of stuff going on. Crowd noise everywhere. Everybody's feeling happy on this happy Friday. Advice from my parents growing up is from wise people, grandparents too. Stop being on bad terms and at odds with people that you love. Some people love strife, but they do it in secret. I do it on to the universe. Anything comes my way, good or bad, I always talk about it to the universe. I don't keep it to myself, and I want to make sure that message gets out there. Rise and shine, something my mom always says to me. I want to start today. It's a message for kids going back to school, especially black boys. It's called a survival guide in mainstream law and order, especially going back to college where you're away from your parents that care about you. Not all parents care about their children, but most parents you would think they do. A good parent does not let harm come their way. Like a bear will protect their cub. If you can't get close to the cubs, they would tear you to pieces. But would you believe that some people will allow you to get close to their family and harm their family that they say they love so much? A bear has more common sense than some people. You can Google it. So I want to give some survival guides that helped me get through my life, as my parents told me. And it's for kids going off to college because sometimes you just don't know. As an African-American man, grown man, I'm not immune from what I'm going to bring up to young black boys. I know the crowds want to cheer. I know they want to say, touchdown, home run, a three-point play for black boys. But I got to tell you this, when you don't have the uniform on, some of the same people that say they love you, they will threaten you with bodily harm, try to take you to court, try to do all type of nefarious things, even though they're going to be the ones that suffer in the end because they're ignorant. At the same time, for young black boys, you may not have the parenting that I had growing up. So I'm just going to say this, if it's for you, great. If it's not for you, that's fine too. But you can never say you didn't hear it. 10 rules of survival if stopped by law enforcement for young African Americans. When you don't have a uniform on, when the crowd's not cheering your name touchdown, some of the same people that say they love you will turn their back on you in a split second. 10 survival rules, especially black boys. Number 1, be polite and respectful. When stopped by law enforcement, keep your mouth closed. I'm telling you survival guys, that's number 1. Number 2, you can write this down. Remember that your goal is to get home safely. If you feel that your rights are being violated, you and your parents have the right to file a formal complaint with your local police jurisdiction. Even though some parents won't even protect their children the way a bear will protect their own cubs. Number 3, do not under any circumstances get into an argument with police officers. Oftentimes as a black boy, you will find that mainstream will call the police just to see if they can get you shot or arrested because they think they have that power. I've seen it my own self in the last 48 hours. Always remember that anything you say anything you say, I'm saying it 3 times, can and will be used against you in the court of law. So oftentimes, when you deal with enforcement, they got a job to do too. But their job is to find a way to get you to incriminate yourself too. I've just dealt with this myself. I filed a formal complaint against someone who made a threat against my manhood, my bodily existence. I'm like the lion. You can't threaten me, because I'll bring the vengeance of God against you, if that makes sense to you. I'm saying this to people because people got to hear it, especially young black boys that are the most targeted in the criminal justice system, and most arrests are made between 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock p.m. when people are out of school. You got to know this. Keep your hands in plain sight. Make sure the police can see where your hands are at all times. I'm talking to kids that are going to be going away to college, where you don't have that bear to protect the cub, even though some humans will allow harm to come to their own families. But a bear wouldn't do it. I'm like a lion. Try going to a lion's den and bother their cubs. They will team up against you, and they will not allow you to bother their cubs. Some people do. Avoid physical contact with police officers. No sudden movements. Keep your hands out of pockets. That's number 6. Number 7, do not run. Even if you're afraid, do not run. They have a job to do. If you're a black boy, you're more apt to be tackled, tased, or even shot than a white kid. We've seen that during the insurrection. I've seen it in my own life. At 18 years old, I had a gun held up into my face by law enforcement because I was told I was speeding. I'd have some white friends who told me they were pulled over drunk and they were allowed to go home, just with a warning. That's a fact. Number 8, even if you believe that you're innocent, do not resist. Just comply. I've been told that all my life. I know you want to get to the game. I know you want to watch the game. It's the survival guide from Big C Sports for young African-American boys going back to college. Do not make any statements about the incident until you are able to meet with a lawyer or a public defender. That's why I have a lawyer for my family. And this advice comes from lawyers also. Number 10, stay calm and remain in control. Watch your words and body language and emotions. You gotta say, it's okay to say, I don't know, I want to talk to a lawyer. If someone plans to arrest you, you can talk to a lawyer. Because even as a grown man, oftentimes what will happen is they will ask you questions over and over again to see if you got to make inconsistent statements. That's why if you ever want to file a report, just file the report. That way there's no inconsistent statements. You got to understand that. Their job is to trip you up and say, wait a minute, 5 minutes ago, you said it was a green car that had that was a suspect. Now you're saying it was a blue car? So which one were you lying about, the green car or the blue car? Were you lying this time or the first time 5 minutes ago? I'm telling you, young people, there are times if you ever get a threat, especially young women, men will threaten you over your cell phone, sending you threatening texts. It happens to men and women. For African-American kids, oftentimes mainstream feels they can call the police on you and that they're going to show up and arrest you or shoot you. They think they have that power. And police will sometimes tell you, well, just block that person. No, you never block the call of someone threatening you. You leave it open for law enforcement to see and file a report. That's what my lawyer says. But I'm telling you, young black boys, oftentimes, law enforcement will tell you, well, just block that person's message. So now when you go to file a report, you have nothing to report. You never block the message or the phone calls of anyone trying to threaten you, because what they say or text can be held against them in a court of law. You know, a bear would not let you into the bear's den, but some parents will let someone come in to try to harm their family. Keep that in mind, young people. All's fair in love and war. So those are my 10 survival guides from Big C Sports for people going away to college. I think that's so important. You're not going to hear about that on any other sports show. They always want to tell you, touchdown, home run, three-point play. Because when you're a young black kid, that's what they think you're bred for. Get bigger, stronger, and faster. I say get more intellectual. Get more curious. Understand law. I studied law in college. I also studied business. And I studied criminal justice. And it's kept me out of trouble. Because there's sometimes you could be the one that's a victim, and they'll make it seem like you're the one who's a perpetrator. I've experienced that myself. So young black boys, please follow Big C Sports. No one else is going to tell you this stuff. They're just going to tell you, congratulations, you look big, strong, and fast. Do you play football? I want to say before I get into sports, because that's a PSA, if I don't say that, then I'm not the bear cub that protects their own parents and their own cubs. Again, try go to a lion's den and bother a lion's cubs. You get ripped apart. But some parents will allow other people to come and threaten their family, either their spouse or their children, and they say nothing. I had a story where there was a story about a man that had entered into the home of a woman. And the woman just happened to have the husband there sleeping upstairs. But there was a man who did not know the husband was home, so he entered the house trying to take advantage of that woman. And so that woman yelled out, help, help, help. Would you believe the husband came downstairs and took things into his control, and then the person left and ran? There's also another story where a man was being threatened with bodily harm and told his spouse about it, and his spouse defended the person doing the threatening. I told you a bear cub, it has more protection sometimes from a bear than a human being has from another human being. So men and women, when you're going through things, you got to protect yourself. Never be afraid to call for help. It's all fair in love and war. My mother wrote me a letter when I was in college, and I still have that letter, because it's what I'm doing right now to young kids going away to college. I have the best mother in the universe, always talking to me, even to this day. Psalms 10 is about footprints in the sand. And the college kid said, or just as a metaphor, the college kid says, God, why have you forsaken me? God said, my precious, precious child, when you saw one set of footprints in the sand, it was I who carried you. And that's what Big C Sports wants to be. I want to be the footprints in the sand, because I'm giving you information that can keep you safe, especially young black boys, as you go off to school and you're not wearing a uniform, and then mainstream may not have use for you, because you're not playing touchdown, home run, 3-point play, slam dunk. And some of those same people that say, I love you, they'll be the ones trying to threaten you with bodily harm. But let them threaten law enforcement. A lot of them already have a record. Isn't that something? We'll take what's called the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. And when we come back, in the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll talk about more sports. All right, we are back from the Big C Pause, also known as the Big C Timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps you can follow on Spreaker, Podchaser, all over the world. I really appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. Ready to have a smart TV? You'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I want to share this with you. It came from a good friend of mine, in talking about some things that my parents always told me, because there's a lot of kids getting ready to go away to college, and unlike a bear cub, they may not have that bear to protect them when the enemy tries to come in. But you got to learn to protect yourself. It's called call 911. Don't let anybody try to intimidate you. And oftentimes, what I've heard from women who've been assaulted, and men too, the perpetrator always says, why did you call the police? I don't understand. Why do you have to make it a police report? Women, make a police report before you're carried away by the ambulance. It happens every 20 seconds in this country where women are assaulted, and men get assaulted too. So Big C Sports focuses on 3 main points for going back to college. Going back to college, like the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, until you get your degree, keep saying, I'll be back to college. Number 1, the storm, and what to do, what we should all do when we are slapped in the face with the crisis. Number 2, the why, and what we can and should do to pivot and plan for a new beginning. Number 3, seek his face. God seldom uses exalted experts, but prefers to anoint humble servants. How should we confront our crisis opportunities? With prayer, humility, and seeking not what we can see with our own eyes. With vision, but to seek revelation, which is hidden unless we have been anointed and chosen to see what God wants us to see. which is good in all of us. That's like the foundation of Big C Sports. I'm never one to just come on and talk about, man, you're big, strong, and fast. That's part of life too. We understand that. We see that in athletes. You got to see how big, strong, and fast somebody is. That's how they decide if they want to put you on the uniform. If you want to make the team, you got to be big, strong, and fast. All fair in love and war, but I love bringing things up that makes a lot of sense. I want to go across the pond to the world of soccer. Soccer star Lionel Messi going to leave Barcelona over contract talks failed. We're not talking about a small nickel and dime contract, $25,000, $25 million or whatever it is. Soccer superstar Lionel Messi will leave Barcelona after contract talks they fail. When you think about it, FC Barcelona dealing with a new contract, the superstar to leave Barcelona after discussions for a new contract failed due to financial structural obstacles related to Spanish league spending rules. The team announced that yesterday. FC Barcelona said the club and Messi had agreed to the terms of a contract and intended to sign the deal on Thursday, but the deal was stymied because of La Liga's regulations limiting how much a club can spend compared to its revenue. Now, Messi, 34 years old, was signed as a 13-year-old through FC Barcelona's youth program, La Masia. He had played for the top team since 2004 and is currently captain of his Argentina's national team. Now, keep that in mind when I tell you about the money. During his tenure in Barcelona, he won the Ballon d'Or award for the world's best soccer player in the universe, a record 6 times, last garnering the accolade in 2019. Messi's most recent contract signed in 2017 is a little bit less than the contract I'm signing with Big C Sports. $675 million. I'll say that again. His most recent contract signed in 2017 valued at $675 million. To kick a ball? Are you kidding me? We have first responders saving lives, working 12-hour, 15-hour, 18-hour shifts. A guy kicking the ball gets $675 million. Just a thought. Not his fault. It's what it pays. So despite FC Barcelona and Lionel Messi having reached an agreement and the clear intent of both parties to sign a new contract, this cannot happen because of Spanish La Liga's regulation of players. So the point is, he's going to move on because I guess he can't live on less than $675 million. All fair, love, and war. People got to keep that in mind when they think Americans have too many highly paid, athletes, and people sometimes resent the athletes of African Americans being paid too much. But according to soccer stats, FBref.com, he holds the all-time record of scoring 474 goals in La Liga's matches. He also notched 120 European Champions League goals, second only to the former Real Madrid rival Cristiano Ronaldo. All fair and love and war. Soccer pays out a lot of money to a lot of good old boys. $675 million, not enough money to keep you saying, I'll be back. They didn't even give Arnold Schwarzenegger and Terminator $675 million, and he still said, I'll be back. That's one of my favorite actors. Just like T.D. Jakes is streaming, has a 3-day operation called Restoration. The great T.D. Jakes. If you ever want to get your spirit fed, follow T.D. Jakes. That man is anointed, has a spirit. I love listening to T.D. Jakes. He speaks from his gut. He speaks from his higher self, and I love what he's doing in the world of anointing. I even love part of what I do on Big C Sports is because I reach out to T.D. Jakes. He has a call-in line. I won't give it out now, but he has a call-in line. You can call in, and they'll pray over you. A lot of things happen through prayer. It doesn't matter how many college degrees you have. As a black man, sometimes you're just a blankety-blank black man. And some of the people in mainstream, they think they know that, so they'll call law enforcement and try to make threats to you because that's illegal. According to law enforcement, harassment's illegal. And sometimes when law enforcement reaches out to them, they already got a record. You don't say. I don't have a record. All fair and love and war. I want to get into something that happened with why Big C Sports. It should be the #1 choice for sponsors. We've already had Disney Corporation casting director, Zariah Matthews. She said some really nice things to me that I really appreciate. She says, Charlton, you're magic. And I appreciate that because we live in a world where a lot of people tear you down. We had the Olympics, August Wesley on, and he said some complimentary things about Big C Sports Podcast. Anthony Wesley Jr., also an Olympian, has some positive things to say about Big C Sports Podcast. DC Livers has her own TV network, the Black Sports TV Network. Isn't that something? She came live on the Big C Sports Podcast for the NBA draft out of Brooklyn, New York. Because I'm legit. And so I'm telling you, we had some Zoom bang with a good friend of mine. I called Mr. Aaron Gonzalez, and he has a partner by the name of Jim, and the CEO came onto the show and talked about the Zoom bang product that's used by a lot of professional sports teams. They came on Big C Sports. And why I'm telling sponsors, and I said the show yesterday, TV and football, it's all made live and available by sponsorship. So sponsors, 82% of people remember radio ads. Big C Sports Podcast has the best ads in the sports universe. We're the only sports show that talks about religion, having faith in God, more than just saying God is great, God is good, we thank you for our food, by your hand we must be fed, give us our daily bread, amen. Like, people do that so fast just so they can say I didn't eat without giving grace. Listen to T.D. Jakes, how he gives grace. I want young kids to go away when you're in college. You know, take God with you. Just like my mom wrote me that letter when I was in college about footprints in the Psalms 10. When you feel forsaken, God, why have you forsaken me? Why have you allowed people to turn? God says, when you saw my precious child, when you saw one set of footprints in the sand, it was I who carried you. Young kids, remember that, especially young black boys. If you're not wearing a uniform, sometimes you're considered not as valuable. And some of the people that say they love you will turn their back on you, and you'll get less protection than a bear cub will in a bear's den. Think about that. That's why you can come to Big C Sports and hear that. Last night we had the Hall of Fame game, in the first Hall of Fame game in 2021 after COVID. Isn't that something? The Pittsburgh Steelers knocked off the Dallas Cowboys by the score of 16-13. How about them Cowboys? So, you know, there's a touching moment about Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson and how they did what a lot of people shouldn't do, and they still do. We should not be at odds. Stop being at odds with people that you say you love or care about. If you have a difference of opinion, just call that person and have a conversation. But when you're a black man and you deal with sometime mainstream, I'm saying it happens within every culture, but primarily mainstream. We've seen an issue where a man was in New York City, simply asked a white woman, to put her dog on a leash, and she called the police, saying she felt threatened by a black man. And all he said, it's a leash law, I don't want to get bitten by your dog. She had more love for her dog than the leash law. And law enforcement showed up. That's why I tell young people of color, you got to understand the law does not treat you the same. Read the book called The Color of Law, especially when you're hanging out with mainstream and they want to call the police. I remember one time before we come up on the Big C, Paul, it's important. I was driving 3 mainstream girls in college. They had been smoking marijuana. I never smoked it. I didn't want them to get in trouble, so I told them I'd drive them home. We got pulled over at a police checkpoint. And I said, God, I don't want to go to jail. I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just trying to get them home. So the officer asked me, he said, where are you coming from? And I said, I'm bringing them from a party, just trying to get them home, and don't want them to be driving. They're not in condition to drive. I was the only black man in the car. You know what he said? Go right ahead on through. He said, go right ahead on through. There were 3 Caucasian women. As a black man, I've been pulled over, questioned, and detained. Never smoked marijuana, never done drugs. Held for 15 minutes. 15 minutes for being innocent. Get pulled over with a car with white girls in the back and one in the front seat. The car smelled the marijuana. He made us stop for maybe 30 seconds and let us go. If we were all black, I'm sure we would have been arrested. That's why I say everyone should read The Color of Law. And some of those same mainstream that you protect them from drinking and driving, one time coming across the Bay Bridge from San Francisco, get a call from some people, 2 women, they were drunk. I didn't want them driving home, so I said, just call me, I can pick you up. It was about 1 o'clock in the morning. So I'm driving across the Bay Bridge in a red BMW. I think I was about 25, 26 years old. I get pulled over. I was driving too fast. So officer pulls up on me, flashes the red lights, and I said, oh my God, I just want to get home. It's my fault. I was driving about 70 and it's 65. So I pulled over, put my hazards on, and one of the girls in the back was so drunk, she tried to get out of the car and talk to the law enforcement officer. I said, no, don't do that. Let the officer do his job, please, because I had gotten out of the car that time and he asked me to. And the officer says, where are you going? I said, I'm trying to take them home. They were drinking and I didn't want them driving drunk. And he said, all right, have you been drinking? I said, no, I was just asleep, and they called me, so I woke up and I wanted to take them so they wouldn't be causing any harm. And he said, well, that's an admirable thing you're doing, but slow down and thank you for taking care of them. Would you believe one of those same mainstreams threatened me? We'll take the Big C pause. We'll be right back. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. Just like Arnold Schwarzenegger, coach, I said I'd be back, and I came back. I came back all spare 11, where you can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. So many more things happening with the NFL coverage this year of Big C Sports 2021. Really appreciate that. I thank God for Ephesians 3:20. Read that, young kids, as you get back to college. So last night, the Hall of Fame game, 16-3, the Pittsburgh Steelers over the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott didn't play. Steelers managed to find some answers in front of thousands of their fans at Tom Benson Stadium, as well as a national TV audience. And those watching saw several positive debuts at the Steelers. You know, it was kind of a sloppy game, but it was, you know, it's preseason. A lot of guys are not giving you what Anita Baker said, giving you the best that I got. Okay, I don't seem like the great Anita Baker, but I tried. But that was the Pittsburgh Steelers, the steel curtain against the Dallas Cowboys. And I guess the Doomsday defense, they slept in last night. What's that good old boy commercial said? I'll leave the light on for you. The Doomsday defense did not show up last night. They were missing. They were MIA, missing in action. All's fair in love and war. I want to bring you up on the second half of our show. That's NFL football. You saw the Steelers look pretty good last night. They're going to have a decent football team, I think. Then I want to also, for you defensive football-minded players, I want to talk about some of the teams coming up this year, and whether you like them or not. Not everybody can agree or disagree on who's going to be some of the top teams in NFL football. But just some thoughts, Big C's thoughts, coming into the power rankings for the defenses in the NFL. I'm going to just bring up a couple of teams, and you don't have to agree. It's just an opinion. Tier 1, I'm going to say the Los Angeles Rams, the league's #1 defense a season ago, sure to see some regression, in part because of the loss of both personnel and coaching, but they should still be one of the elite units. The Rams defense boasts the best single player in college football in the shape of the great Aaron Donald, Sackman Aaron Donald. And sometimes you'll hear about it. Wilson under center, 4 wideouts, 5-man front. The Rams, crowd's going nuts, and Russell back to pass. He's sacked by the defense. Aaron Donald with a blitz to the line of scrimmage. The great Aaron Donald gets his hands around touchdown. Russell Wilson, and Seattle has a 5-yard loss. Okay, that's part of what you're going to hear in NFL football. That's my choice for maybe the defensive player of the year. You also got to go, when you look at the top players in the NFL, just my opinion, Big C's thoughts. Tampa Bay's defense, I think the Buccaneers are legitimate. They have so many great players back, but Tampa Bay's defense finished 6th last year in expected points added up per play. They did that despite rookies featured predominantly, and then Vita Vea missing most of the year after looking like the best nose tackle in football for the first month of the season. And just like the offense, the Bucs have a lot of depth on the defensive side of the ball. There's a very good football team, and I think you look about how do you extend Tom Brady's career. You have a defense. You have a good defense that can keep the points low for any opponent, and you should have a better chance for Tampa Bay to have, they're probably going to win 12 games this year, at least 12. I want to look at the Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw them last night. No team had a higher pressure rate last season than the Pittsburgh Steelers. 45% of the time, one of the best marks in football in the last 15 years, they're pressuring quarterbacks. They were almost 5 percentage points better than the next best team And when you look at what they're trying to do in 2021, most of the same players on board, and even more when you think about it, of an upgrade opposite T.J. Watt and Melvin Ingram. You have Baker Mayfield up at the line of scrimmage, has 4 wideouts. It's a 5-man front. Mayfield, the snap, rolling to his right, rolling. He's pressured by T.J. Watt, sacked behind the line of scrimmage. The great T.J. Watt, that good old boy. He and Melvin Ingram, if they stay healthy, my goodness, they're going to get the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats. We know the great Mean Joe Green had the Big C burger back in the day. Don't rest your laurels on the next team with the great defense, Big C style. Denver Broncos, they're building a juggernaut on defense again, just like they had when they won Super Bowl 50 out in Santa Clara, San Francisco. Bryce Callahan was one of the best cornerbacks in the league last season, but frequently asked to play out of position for coverage of injuries. Since then, they've added Kyle Fuller, Ronald Darby, and Patrick Surtain II in the draft to turn their areas of weakness into a strength. Add in the return of Von Miller and Bradley Chubb, and the coach consistently in the forefront of modern defense. The Broncos going to be very formidable. The Raiders up to the line of scrimmage. Derek Carr, 4 wideouts, 5-man front. Carr, the snap, back the pass, rolling to his left, rolling. He's sacked by the great Von Miller of the Denver Broncos, a 5-yard loss. And don't be surprised if you hear more of that this 2021 when the Oakland Raiders are playing anybody, but especially the Denver Broncos. Look for that defense this year. They're mean and nasty, even when the smoke doesn't clear. All's fair in level war. Another great defense. This team was young. Last year they were very driven. Big C's, top NFL defense. The Washington football team. Washington has assembled a fearsome-looking defensive line, and they've been making moves behind it too. William Jackson III replaces Donald Darby at cornerback, and should be an upgrade there. Jackson allowed 52% of passes thrown his way to be caught. Jamin Davis bolsters the linebacking crew from the draft, but may not be an impact player year one. But when you think about Washington and their defensive front, that's going to be a very good team. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do on the defensive side of the line. I want to go to another team that's in Big C's power rankings. The Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore's defense already good. They were already good to the last drop, if that makes sense to you. And they made some pretty significant moves to reinforce the offseason. Matthew Judon departs as a free agent, but he's been replaced by Odafe Oweh in the draft and Justin Houston as late signings. When you think about it, Oweh is one of the most gifted athletes in the game, and the Ravens do an outstanding job of scheming. I think about it, this team, they blitzed about 46% of the time last year. They're an aggressive team. And I like Odafe Oweh and Justin Houston. And you weren't going to look at it this way. Mayfield up to the line of scrimmage, has 4 wideouts, 5-man front by Baltimore. Mayfield rolling to his right, rolling. He's sacked on the play by Justin Houston as he came in on the blitz, and Mayfield could not get out of the way. And that Baltimore defense is legit. I've seen them do the same thing when they came down to Oakland, and Saragusa did a dirty play and landed on Rich Gannon's arm and knocked the Raiders out of the playoffs back at the Oakland Coliseum back in the day. And some of the Raiders said, why wasn't he thrown out of the game? And I still think to this day, the Raiders have always had to pay the price for the late, great Al Davis being a Maverick, and sometimes that's just my opinion from some Raider greats. Again, one of the great Raiders, John Vella, one of the great offensive linemen for the Raiders back in the day. On later, Raider Locker Room gave me my first TV commercial back in the day when I was doing commercials in television in the Bay Area. So I really appreciate the great John Vella for that. And he also said that the Raiders got robbed. Okay, it's all fair in level war. And Raiders don't lie. The Raiders never lie. All fair in level war. Yes, it was a fumble. Tom Brady knows that. I want to take it down to the South, the New Orleans Saints. The Saints always have been plenty of turnovers given their approach to the salary cap, but their defense is still loaded with talent. A suspension of David Onyemata as a defensive line is a blow, as he's part of the best guarded defenders in the season career, when you think about it. But heading into camp, the addition of Prince Amakara, Big C, I think he's going to be an amazing player, but he's a second cornerback spot opposite Marshawn Lattimore. When you wonder how it's going to come into place, Matt Ryan up to the line of scrimmage, has 4 wideouts, 5-man front, the snap, Ryan rolling to his right, rolling. Look, he's sacked on the play by Marshawn Lattimore, who's blitzing from the secondary. And that Marshawn Lattimore, you'll hear more about that as the Saints go marching in. Oh, if the Saints go marching in, I want to be in that number. Oh, when the Saints go marching in. Yeah, it's all fair level work, but the crowd is great. You'll see the Saints blitz happy down south in the Superdome, where the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, all fair and level wire. Really love the way the Saints play football. They're an aggressive lad. The crowd goes nuts down in New Orleans. There was a time they were known as paper bag. They don't wear paper bags now. They show their face proudly. The 49ers, the fistful of gold. This team has 5 franchise Super Bowls, looking for number 6. A new defensive coordinator in San Francisco. Salah's over in New York now. It's going to be an interesting element to monitor for this team, but most of the pieces are made in place from a defense that has been among the league's best over the past couple of seasons since the start of 2019. You can Google this. The 49ers, they're tied for the league's best yards per play. Figure allowed about 4.8. Only the Steelers had allowed fewer per play. The secondary needs to figure out what goes on, behind Richard Sherman, Robert Saleh leaving. But I think Bosa is something. He's going to probably be a Pro Bowl player again. The Rams come up to the line of scrimmage. Stafford, 5 wideouts, 4-man front by the 49ers. They got 5 deep in the secondary. Crowd's going nuts at SoFi Center. Stafford with the snap, rolling out to his right. He's sacked! He couldn't even get out of the tackle box. Sacked at the line of scrimmage by Bosa. And Bosa, I'm telling you, he's going to be an all-pro player again. That good boy came out of St. Thomas Aquinas High School down in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, then went to Ohio State and did his thing. He's a sack leader. Had an injury last year, and it cost him a little bit. But that good boy, he reads quarterbacks like a magnet reads steel. He's always looking to sack the quarterback. He's fast, too, for a big guy. Has a lot of speed, puts a lot of pressure on you. Reminds me of Big C when he used to come off the corner back in the day. Indianapolis Colts, who knows what's going on with Carson Wentz, but Carson doesn't play defense. But their defense, man, they're legit. They were a good defense last year. The Colts' zone-heavy approach to defense paid major dividends in 2020, allowing players like Xavier Rhodes to revive his career after an ugly end to his tenure in Minnesota. Rhodes posted the best single-season grade of his career, 77.3, went back in the double digits for pass breakups. He's a great guy in the defense, and you got to keep an eye on him. Their defense has hit the ball back to them a lot. They got to have, in my opinion, guys that will just sell out on defense because you don't know what's going to happen for them on offense. All fan level work. The Green Bay Packers, the season ended in part because of Kevin King in the secondary. They could not stop Tampa Bay's defense or Tampa Bay's offense in the NFC Championship game. My goodness, why do you let someone get deep coming up to halftime and that happened against them? But that was a blown coverage. It's just my opinion. That shouldn't happen again this year. But think about the unit as a whole is very good. Rashawn Gray began to put together as a pass rusher late last season. The continuation of the performance is going to be great for the Packers. Imposing edge rusher tandem Zarius Smith and Gary had 46 total pressures. I'm telling you, when you look at what's happened, Kirk Cousins up to the line of scrimmage, has 4 wideouts, 5-man front by the Packers. Cousins with the snap, rolling to his right, rolling. He's sacked behind the line of scrimmage. Zadarius Smith for the Green Bay Packers, blitzing off the end. And you'll hear more of that with the Green Bay Packers as their defense is legit. They just had to, they had a few blown coverages last year, and that cost them in the NFC Championship game. Woo, Nelly. Whoa, Nelly, the late Keith Jackson used to say, whoa, Nelly. Whoa, Nelly's right. Foxborough, Massachusetts. Belichick has the good old boys back. Cool and the gang is back in town. People talk about Cam Newton. Is he going to start? Yeah, he's going to start. The Patriots defense had a rare down year last season. COVID-19 had a lot of guys stand out. But they called for plenty of reinforcement. They called for backups. Is this the man who wrecked the buffet at the Herald Club this morning? They didn't call for backups like Beverly Hills Cop and Eddie Murphy. You must be the pride of your department, the great Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop. Is this the man who wrecked the buffet at the Herald Cup this morning? You think about the regression of some players like Stephon Gilmore, down a little bit last year. But I'm going to tell you, this team's going to welcome back Dante Hightower, one of the linchpins in the defense over the past few seasons that opted out of 2020. Hightower, he's a well-rounded linebacker that adds a positive spin and a great pass rusher for the Patriots. I really love this. This good boy can play. And the New England Patriots, they'll be hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming in to Foxborough. Brady up to the line of scrimmage, has 4 wideouts, 5-man fronts. The crowd at Gillette's going nuts. Brady back to pass, rolling to his right, rolling, sacked on the play. Dante Hightower, he sacks Tom Brady, and the crowd goes nuts. And I'm telling you, that's going to happen when they play. Don't know if the league will allow Tampa to lose that game, but this team, New England, their defense, they smell blood in the water like a shark smells blood. That's a game that defense will sell out. They'll give Tom Brady a standing ovation, but when the game starts, all's fair in love and war. He's gonna be up for it too. I mean, it's all for. I can't wait to see that game. I don't know who's gonna win, but I believe they'll try to keep Brady safe. The officials will. I want to take you to another great defense that has NFL implications and Super Bowl implications. Maybe not Super Bowl. That's maybe going out too far on the limb. But I think there'll be a team in Cleveland. This is for you, the great LeBron James, where I tell you, young black man, I gave out Big C's survival guide for him going back to college, going back to college, going back to college. Or is that going back to Cali, the great LL Cool J? It's all fair and level word when you're going back. Like Welcome Back Carter, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. The great Welcome Back Carter, all fair and level word. I think John Travolta was in that TV series also. But the Cleveland Browns, Cleveland, this is for you. Cleveland's secondary was a weakness by the end of last season, and they attacked it hard throughout the offseason with both free agent and draft additions. It remains to be seen whether every one of those additions is going to work out. But for their stride, I think it will. You think about the upgrades. John Johnson III at safety in particular has earned an overall great grade at being very good in the NFL. I want to tell you up front, keep an eye on this guy. When I started charting stats as a Chiron assist in the NFL, they had me chart the great Michael Strahan for the New York Giants. Jadeveon Clowney, a lot of people said he was washed up. He's not washed up. Watch him have a great year this year. He's an elite playmaker. But every play, every TV network is going to tell them to keep an eye on Myles Garrett. Expect Cleveland's defense to be better in 2001. And Myles Garrett is going to be part of that, because this is a team that's going to make a lot of noise. We talked about Superman Jackson, the Ravens up to the line of scrimmage. There's 4 wideouts. There's a 5-man front with Cleveland. Superman Jackson with the snap, rolling right, rolling, looking, sacked on the play. He's sacked by Myles Garrett. With a 5-yard loss, Superman Jackson could not get away from the great Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett's legit. He got kicked out or suspended for hitting a player in the helmet for the Steelers. Learn this lesson. He's a good character guy. He made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes sometime. But they're going to chart Myles Garrett everything he does. Even if he goes to the bathroom, they're going to chart Myles Garrett. So make sure you close the door and don't leave the light on for him, if that makes sense to you. All fair and love more. New York Giants had a defense that seemed to be a bit consistently play above the level of expectations 2020. Keep in mind, the Giants allowed 5.3 yards per play last season. That's a top 10 figure in the league. James Bradbury had a career year at cornerback, looking like one of the best players in the league. And Bradbury had 14 pass breakups and 3 interceptions. He was only targeted 17 times. Think about that. 17 times. So when they come up and they're playing, you have the Dallas Cowboys playing at the New York Giants. Dak Prescott comes up to the line of scrimmage, has 4 wideouts as a 5-man front. Dak Prescott the snap, looking, throwing downfield. The pass is broken up by James Bradbury, knocked away at the final moments, because Bradbury is a pass breakup maker. And he'll do the same thing this year for that team, for the Giants. They just got to find a better way to play on offense. Miami Dolphins, I really love what Brian Flores is doing down there in South Florida. The Miami's defense definitely heading in the right direction. The last season posted some pretty impressive numbers, even if there were still flaws in the work finding an answer to the slot cornerback woes. And the team increased their chances by bringing in Justin Coleman, a contingency play in case Noah is not going to be able to play. Inga Boarding, it doesn't take a step forward. Jalen Phillips also represents one of the highest upsides of any pass rusher in the draft. I'm telling you, this Miami team, they are going to be such a good team. I really appreciate what they're doing. And they had a chance to get into the playoffs last year, but couldn't quite get it done. Josh Allen comes up to the line of scrimmage, has 4 wideouts, a 5-man front. The Bills under center. The snap goes to Allen, rolling right, looking. He's sacked behind the line of scrimmage by Jalen Phillips. The Miami defense is turning up the heat. It's all fair and love and war as they turn up the heat down in South Florida. It's a great football season coming up. Just going over some of the top defenses, Big C style. The Los Angeles Chargers, the Lightning Bolts, those good boys. New SoFi Stadium should be a packed house in LA. Brandon Staley was the defensive coordinator for the best defense in the NFL last year. And though he's now head coach for the Chargers, you can bet his impact is going to be felt in that unit. Had a lot of talent for some time, but came up short expectations. Joey Bosa, I talked about his brother Nick Bosa up in San Francisco. Joey Bosa is one of the league's best pass rushers, coming off a career best 90 overall grade. And the also return of Derwin James from injuries are going to be the best single needle mover in the team. I really like what Bosa's doing. Derek Carr up at the line of scrimmage has 4 wideouts. There's a 5-man front. The snap, Carr rolling to his right, looking. He's sacked behind the line of scrimmage. The great Joey Bosa fighting off two blockers, gets to the great Carr, and presents another. That's his 5th sack. That's his 5th sack on the day. Yeah, he's at. Well, they're going to count it at 4.5. I'm going to give him 5. That good old boy knows how to get to the quarterback. Carr is going to be up to it. Hopefully for the Raiders, they got to have that offensive line intact because they're going to have a lot of pressure playing Denver, playing Kansas City, and also the Chargers. Going to be a tough going for the Raiders this year. Minnesota Vikings, the defense, not the purple paper eaters, a little bit soft last season for Mike Zimmer group, but much of that was due to the loss of personnel circumstances. Daniel Hunter missed all last season, but 2019 had his best season as a pro, had 80 total pressures, and now teams with Michael Pierce, who opted out of last year because of COVID and all that jazz. And so I like what's going on. That good boy should be back in the saddle for things for the defense. Aaron Rodgers up to the line of scrimmage, 4 wideouts, 5-man front. Rodgers rolling to his right, rolling. He's sacked behind the line of scrimmage. The great Daniel Hunter. He missed all of last season, but had in 2019 had 80 total pressures. Gets a touchdown, Aaron Rodgers, and that brings up a 4th down for the Green Bay Packers. Going to the state of New York for the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo is one of the best coached teams defensively, able to consistently get a bit more out of each individual. Last year, it's amazing how they came close in the playoffs, but they got knocked off for a touchdown, Patrick Mahomes. I really think about this team is so poised, but they have a better team in, just my opinion, don't throw arrows, don't throw darts and arrows. New England's going to be good. Miami's going to be good. I'm not feeling the Jets. Buffalo's good, but they're going to be competing for second place. I'm still looking at New England to win that division. But Buffalo's defense is legit. I tell you that team's legit. You have Ed Oliver and Tremaine Edmonds each had career worst grades last year. The Bills were a top 10 in passer rating allowed last season, 98.5 despite those issues. I mean, they're a good team, but they're going to be offensively driven even though their defense is legit. I want to bring you out to the West Coast, the great Northwest, the Seattle Seahawks. The great Pete Carroll. The defense has fallen a long way from the Legion of Boom. They were used to be so dominant. Bobby Wagner, well coached. I mean, just to fall completely off the map. A season ago, they tied for 12th in yards allowed per play at 5.5 yards allowed per play, 11 in passer rating, 96. That's not good. Having virtually nothing in the way of a pass rush, they still got to count on touchdown, Russell Wilson, in my opinion, because that defense, I'm telling you, they still have some elite players. Bobby Wagner's going to be in this single thing. 49ers up to the line of scrimmage. Garoppolo has 4 wideouts, 5-man front. The crowd's going nuts in Seattle. Garoppolo with a snap, rolling to his right, rolling. He's sacked behind the line of scrimmage by blitzing Bobby Wagner. The great Bobby Wagner, part of that Legion of Boom defense, gets to Jimmy Garoppolo, and the 49ers are forced to punt. All fair level. You might hear that more this year. I'm not going to go over every team in the NFL. We'll finish that coming up next week, but I wanted to get to that Big C's thoughts as some of the top defenses in Big C's NFL. Looking forward to it. A lot of good things happening. I'm looking forward to the whole kickoff to the football season. I really like it. I love what I'm seeing in the world of NFL football, and I'm looking forward to a great year, especially with crowds back in the stands. We'll take what's called the Big C pause. In the words of the great Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. All right, we're back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You know I love baseball. Baseball, hot dogs, apple pie, and $100 million. Why not make it $6 billion? All fair in Leavenworth. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! Say hello to my little friends. Tonight's Major League Baseball schedule, the Tampa Bay Rays at the Baltimore Orioles, and pitching on the mound for the Orioles, you have John Means. Pay attention to John Mantoy at the bat in that game. All fair in Leavenworth. I'm going to take you out to the city of New York, the New York Yankees, where they're hosting the Seattle Mariners. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! Say hello to my little friends. All fair in Leavenworth, Seattle Mariners at the New York Yankees. The Yankees they're making their stride. Pitching on the mound for New York is Joey Rodriguez. Pay attention to him. Also at the bat, pay attention to Kyle Seager for Seattle. The New York Mets at the Philadelphia Phillies. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! Say hello to my little friend, the great Tony Montana, Al Pacino, and Scarface. Kyle Gibson's pitching on the mound. Pay attention to Kyle Gibson when he's doing his thing. I really love the way baseball is being played. And at the bat, watch out for Michael Conforto. I want to take you to a team that has the most rustic ballpark, maybe I'll say on the East Coast. And that's the Boston Red Sox. But they're on the road at Toronto, taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. The pitch, hit deep, left field, back to the wall, home run! Say hello to my little friend. Adios, Pelosa. It's all fair in Leavenworth up in Toronto. Alex Manoah is pitching for them good old boys. And pay attention to JT Martinez when he's at bat for the Red Sox. What a great group of baseball players there in Boston. Pittsburgh Pirates are at the Cincinnati Reds. And if you know what's coming, the pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! Say hello to my little friends. All fair in Lowly War, the great Tony Montana for Scarface. Pitching is Wade Miley, that good boy. Pay attention to him. But at bat, also keep an eye on Matt Reynolds for Pittsburgh. And then again, Miley doing his thing for Cincinnati. We have another great game. Detroit at Cleveland. This is for you. The pitch, hit deep, center field, back to the wall, home run! Say hello to my little friend. All fair and level war in Cleveland. The Cleveland Guardians pitching for Detroit is Matt Manning, and then Bradley Zimmer is pitching. He's at bat for Cleveland. Pay attention to him when he's at bat. Washington at Atlanta. Man, I wish Acuna Jr. would not have had that torn ACL this year. But the pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! Say hello to my little friend. All fair and level war down on the ATL, the great Hammer and Hank Aaron Stadium. But you know what? Pitching is Kyle Miller for Atlanta. Pay attention to Victor Robles at bat for Washington. All fair and level war. I don't give out any clues, but some friends from Las Vegas, they say, hey, Charlton, mention some of these things. I guess they sent me this paper bag. I haven't opened it yet. It's all fair level war. The Minnesota Twins at the Houston Astros. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall. And we can't see because so many cameras are going off at the home run ball. But it looks like it went yard. All fair and level war. I mean, they're always going to have to wear that scarlet letter of cheating down there in Houston. But it's Texas. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. They told you that when you cross the state line. The Twins doing their thing. And the Astros are very tough. They're tough out there. 34-20 at home. The Twins are only 22-33 away. Pay attention to Bailey Over for the pitching for Minnesota. And Zach Greinke, that good boy, has a 3.65 ERA. I told you he's a Jedi Knight. He was trained by the great Obi-Wan Kenobi. You heard about that in Star Wars. Here's a great game coming up in Milwaukee. The pitch, hit deep, right field, back to the wall, home run! Say hello to my little friend. All fair and level war. The league's best leading San Francisco Giants, they are 34-23 away. The Brewers are 31-21 at home. On the mound for the Giants, Logan Webb. He's a 3.33 ERA. He's a Jedi Knight. He was trained by the great Obi-Wan Kenobi. And oftentimes when he faces batters, he says, batter, I am your father, like Darth Vader told Luke Skywalker. If a man walks up to you and says, I am your father. Ask him for ID. Okay, because it might be true. Who knows? Maybe his family partied a lot back in the day. But Logan Webb on the mound for the Giants. And at home, pay attention to Corbin Burns. He has a 2.46 ERA for Milwaukee. All fair level with Kansas City Royals at the St. Louis Cardinals. All fair level for the pitch. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friend. And the Cardinals are 30-24 at home. The Royals are 19-35 away. You make the call. Mike Munner pitching for Kansas City. His ERA is 5.31. Not that good. Adam Wainwright for the Cardinals. 3.53 ERA. He's a Jedi Knight. He was trained by Obi-Wan Kenobi. You make the call. I'm going to take you down to the city, or up to the city of Rocky Mountain High, Colorado. I guess John never knew what he was talking about. Rocky Mountain High. I think the game was supposed to start at 4:20. I don't know if Captain Sherman or not. The pitch. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friend. The Rockies 35-21 at home. The Miami Marlins are only 20-35 away. You make the call. On the mound, Sandy Alcantara. And then for home, the home team, German Marquez, a 3.51 ERA. Alcantara has a 3.12 ERA. That good boy is doing his thing. He's also a Jedi Knight. He went to that Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi Knight school. So when you're up at the batter's box and that good boy is looking at you, he said, "Hey, batter, I am your father." Us all fair and level war, because maybe he is. You know, a lot of baseball players party. All fair and level war. I want to take you to another place over here in the city of Oakland, California. The great Arnold Schwarzenegger used to be governor of California back in the day. The pitch. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friend. The Oakland Athletics 31-25 at home, taking on the Rangers, coming in from Texas, 13-40 on the road. Mike Fulowiczki is the pitcher for the Rangers. At home, Chris Bassett is Duke. He's good. He's 11-3 on the year. 3.28 ERA. The good old boy's a Jedi Knight. He's also one of those players that said, "Hey, batter, I am your father." And maybe he is. Sometimes baseball players, they have these polyamorous relationships. It's all fair and level war. When you get that kind of money, people tend to do things for you. Can't wait to see that, the highlights of that. Oh, my goodness. I love L.A. The pitch. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friend. Eddie Murphy and Q. Is this the man who wrecked the buffet at the Herald Club this morning? The Angels are 25-28 on the road. With the great Shohei Ohtani, the Dodgers are 34-19 at home. Patrick Sandoval on the mound for the Angels. He has a 3.38 ERA. He's a Jedi Knight. And then David Price on the mound for the Dodgers. He has a 3.55 ERA. He's a Jedi Knight. Hey, batter, I am your father. It's all fair and level war. I can't wait to see that game down at Chavez Ring. The Arizona Diamondbacks at the San Diego Padres. The pitch. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friend. The Padres are 36-22 at home. The Arizona Diamondbacks, they're only 13-14. Actually 13-41 on the road. You make the call, as my bookie says. Not my bookie. I'm not giving them money. Caleb Smith pitching for the away team. Ryan Matthews for the home team. A 3.65 ERA. He's a Jedi Knight. I've told you, the great Obi-Wan Kenobi. What does he say to batters? Come on, you know by now. Hey, batter, I am your father. All fair in 11 war. And then the final one today. It's the Battle of the Windy City. The Windy City calls Chicago. The crowd's going nuts. The pitch. Hit deep. Right field. Back to the wall. Home run. Say hello to my little friend. And the Windy City, the Chicago White Sox at the Chicago Cubs. What a great way to party in Chicago. As so many people have had so much success in Chicago this year because baseball, especially for the White Sox. On the mound, Liam Hendricks. That good boy did his thing. And then you looked at the Manuel Rodriguez, and I won't give you who won that game or not. All fair and level war. I just ask everyone to make sure that you pay attention to keeping your kids safe. Protect your family like a bear protects their cubs. Don't let some outsider in to your family to cause strife. Go to their homes and cause the strife. Do not let someone into your home and cause strife. They wouldn't cause strife in their own home. So if you're at least as decent as a bear, protect your cubs. Don't let anyone try to come into your household and cause any type of strife. It's not allowed. It's not acceptable. And I wouldn't let anybody come and put hands on my family member because I protect my family with my life, and that's a fact. If anyone's going to any kind of garbage, just go follow the report. Pay attention to the Olympics. All the Olympic medals are going on all over Tokyo, Japan. I hope that everybody can rise and shine with all the crowd noise. In the final moments of today's Big C Sports, the medal count, China leads everybody with 36 gold medals. The United States has 31 gold medals. Japan, 24 gold medals. Great Britain has 18. Russia has 17, followed by Australia, 17. Italy, 10. Germany, 9. The Netherlands have 9. France has 7. New Zealand has 7. Canada has 6. Republic of Korea has 6. Cuba has 6. And Hungary has 5. If you're hungry, try getting the Big C Burger. It's a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats, all fair, love, and war. As my mama always says, rise and shine. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Bodini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, you float like a butterfly, you sting like a bee, you rumble, young men, rumble. With all you've got to use, how can you lose? I do my show not scripted. I don't have a teleprompter. I don't have a producer in my ear. I do the stats. I do the sound effects. I do the editing. I put together the stories. All I ask you to do is Google it. You can Google it because it is the #1 sports show in the universe. And please listen to it, young black men. I gave you survival tips for going back to college. Every Monday through Friday, rise and shine. You can rise and shine every Monday through Friday at 5 to 6 p.m. worldwide. When you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America, iHeartRadio podcast. As my mama always says, time to rise and shine. There's never ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. As my mama always says, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.